Good morning, everyone. House Democrats spent 3 days trying to show why Donald Trump should be convicted over the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Now it's time for Trump's lawyers to make his case. They say they'll need only 4 hours or fewer. One of the former president's lawyers dismissed the Democrats' video-heavy presentation, accusing them of using it for entertainment value. On the phone right now to discuss is Bloomberg's Mark Niquette. Mark, thanks for joining us this morning. What do we know about the Trump defense team's strategy? What are they going to do today?
Well, like I said, we think it's going to be short. They apparently decided that they do not need a long, drawn-out presentation. They just need to sort of get out with the gist of what they want to get across, not only to the senators in the chamber, but also to the public, sort of the narrative that former President Trump is being singled out in a double standard. As you said, we're hearing they're going to present video of prominent Democrats using fiery rhetoric, calling for supporters to protest and fight as well, matching what President Trump said during that January 6th rally, where he urged his supporters to fight before they stormed the Capitol. We're also expecting video of Democrats who objected to previous election results, again, sort of, giving an equivalence to President Trump fighting to overturn the election results. And the Democrats all along have argued that this is a false equivalence, that, sure, you can point out speeches that Democrats have made and even, questions they've raised about past election results, but it's not the same as, what happened on January 6th with the assault on the Capitol.
Mark, earlier this week, when we first heard from President Trump's legal team, they received widespread criticism from Democrats and Republicans alike. Is there any indication that they will change their tone or their presentation to stem some of that criticism from early on in the trial?
I don't think so. We're hearing that there's expectations that Bruce Castor, in particular, the Trump attorney who was criticized by Republican senators for kind of a meandering presentation on the first day of the trial on Tuesday, that he'll sort of redeem himself and do better. But I think they've decided they don't need a long presentation, and they probably have a pretty tightly scripted presentation they're going to make today, and there won't be a lot of opportunity for meandering and criticism of the style.
What about witnesses here? This is something that is different from the last time the former President Trump was impeached. It isn't certainly an option for both sides to call witnesses, Mark, but it's very unlikely. Why not do this? Is this because many of the people who were there, who are there now, actually witnessed the attack on January 6th?
Yeah, that's one of the arguments, that the senators in particular who are sitting as jurors in this case, are also witnesses, that they were there at the Capitol, obviously, when all this went down. I think probably what's overriding most of the, feeling that they don't need witnesses is the desire on both sides to keep this short. I don't think there's a lot of desire by either Democrats or Republicans to have an extended trial that goes on for days. And if witnesses were called by the House managers, the defense has made it very clear that they would also want to have their own witnesses called, and they would want time to depose the Democrats' witnesses. So that would certainly prolong the trial into next week. And again, I don't think either side wants that at this point.
We have reporting showing that members of the GOP met with defense lawyers recently during this. I'm wondering if Democrats have done anything similar, or if that is at all out of the ordinary for a meeting like that to take place.
Yeah, it certainly raised some eyebrows, because you mentioned we know of at least 3 Republican senators who met with the Trump defense team yesterday to talk about the defense strategy and presumably to talk about questions that senators might be asking the Trump defense team ahead of time. I guess we certainly would have expected the Democratic House managers to be talking with Senate Democratic leadership about logistics and trial rules ahead of the trial. And there may have been discussions about defense strategy, prosecution strategy, but we're not aware of those kind of specific meetings coming so quickly or so soon ahead of the defense case coming today, because this meeting with the Republican senators was yesterday after the Democrats wrapped their case. It'll be interesting to see if we hear more criticism of that, like, again, sort of coordinating with the jurors who will be asked to render the final verdict here.
Right. I mean, it's not a typical jury trial when you have members of the defense actually meeting with the people who will be voting as to whether to convict or acquit. Mark, I got to ask, this has been really compelling testimony, I think, for a lot of people over the past few days coming from the prosecution. Does that matter? Is there any indication at this point that enough GOP senators will vote to convict the former president?
Yeah, we're not seeing that. There were only 6 Republican senators who voted to allow the trial to continue. There was initial debate right at the start of the trial as to whether the trial itself was even constitutional, whether you could hold a trial for a president who's no longer in office. And again, only 6 Republicans voted then to continue the trial on grounds it was constitutional. And we've heard comments from Trump allies like Lindsey Graham that they're not sure even all 6 would vote to acquit, now that we've gone through the trial. And I think Democrats went into this with the, sort of realization or clear-eyed that, it was going to be tough to get the 17 Republican senators needed to get a conviction, which is a 2/3 majority in the Senate. So I think part of what you saw with the presentation was, it was as much a presentation to the American public, an attempt to sort of, put out for history's sake and nothing else, and for the general common view from the public and voters of this dramatic event in our history, this riot on January 6th and all the events leading up to it. So even if we don't get a conviction in the trial, the Democrats will have made their case for history. Here's a defining chapter of President Trump's presidency.
So what happens after today? Let's say that the defense does finish with their arguments. Will we see a potential vote tomorrow to acquit? Will this thing be wrapped up by the end of the weekend?
Yeah, it seems like that's entirely possible. The Senate rules for the trial call for up to 4 hours of questioning from the senators if they want, and then time for more arguments from both sides if they want, and then time for deliberation and a vote. And I guess it's just a question of how much, again, senators want to continue this and drag this out. If we'll see a lot of questions from senators, for example, or if this is going to be sort of a pretty rapid conclusion to the trial. But I think the expectation is we could get a verdict as soon as tomorrow, if in fact the defense presents a short case like they're saying they're going to do, and we don't see a lot of long, drug-out questioning.
Bloomberg's Mark Niquette. Mark, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate you joining us on this Friday morning.